community. I am so stoked for today's call. Today is going to be an interview with the absolutely incredible Chelsey Horton. She is a somatic coach, educator, and the founder of Healing Embodied. There, she trains wellness professionals and leaders to integrate somatics, creativity, and emotional healing in their work and lives. Chelsey holds a master's degree in dance and movement therapy and brings together body-based practices, nervous system healing, and trauma-informed work to help people move beyond traditional talk therapy and truly feel and process emotions in their body. After experiencing burnout as a dance therapist in a community mental health system, Chelsey set out to build a business that prioritized humanity over hustle. She created a thriving embodiment coaching program alongside her COO, Sarah, designed to teach practitioners how to lead with presence, intuition, and creativity rather than rigid formulas. Her approach empowers professionals to remain fully themselves while providing exceptional care to their clients. Chelsey is a published author and has presented at the UCLA Expressive Therapies Conference. Her work focuses on anxiety, shame, religious trauma, inner child healing, and embodiment. She's known for her humor, which you will see in the podcast, authenticity, and depth. She's able to bring a really grounded and relatable perspective to conversations, and she did just that inside of our chat today. Outside of her professional life, Chelsey is a former worship leader turned pole dancer, an improv enthusiast, and a lifelong dinosaur lover. She believes deeply in the power of play, creativity, and self-expression as an essential tool for healing and living fully. And we talk about all of that and more. We're talking about how the patriarchy lives in our body, how to feel sensual, alive, what it means to be in your body. And Chelsey gives really practical ways to do that, how that's been experienced in her own life, religious trauma, deconstructing, and how women have been shamed for their bodies and their connection. It's a really good conversation, and I cannot wait for you to dive in. Let's go. Awesome. Chelsey, welcome to the Rise to Her podcast. How are you today?
I am swell. Thanks so much for having me.
Good. I'm stoked that you're here. Where in the country, in the world are you calling in from?
I'm in Southern California, but in a tiny mountain town outside of LA. It's called Crestline, California. It's a totally different world, but it takes me an hour and a half, 2 hours to drive to LA.
Nice. Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful. It's cool doing these Zoom interviews that we can connect with people literally all over the world.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah, I feel like you're one of the few people on Pacific time with me. Most of the time, I'm like working with people on East Coast time. And that obviously shares its programmatic challenges.
For sure. All the different time zones. It's hard to keep up with.
It really is. But thank goodness for the internet. I know a lot of people have negative things to say, but I think it's really badass for connecting us and giving us access to resources and information that we typically wouldn't have had in the past.
It's the best part. I have built so many incredible relationships because of the internet. So I'll give it that.
Great. Awesome. Well, before we get into your work and you start sharing all of your genius, which I'm very excited about, I want us to go back in time a little bit. And I want you to tell us about who you were as a little girl. What did you feel the most alive doing? Can you paint the picture of little Chelsey?
Oh, I love that question. That's so beautiful. Little Chelsey was a big goofball. She was so silly and expressive. She loved dinosaurs and loved dancing, loved humor. I was always making up weird little dances in my house. I was just a very silly, expressive, creative little kid. And at the same time, a very sensitive, maybe more compliant child. I did not like breaking the rules or getting in trouble. And I wanted to be a good girl. So that was little Chelsey. She's precious.
Yes, she sounds absolutely precious. And I heard something about being a good girl there at the end. And I know we can get into this in a little bit that you were a worship leader. So I'm curious, how did that religious programming kind of infiltrate itself and that good girl syndrome that I think a lot of our listeners will be able to recognize?
Well, yeah, I was pretty much born on the altar of a church, literally raised from the moment I was born in church. And in the type of religious environment I was brought up in, there was a lot of undertones of shame embedded into the teachings. And, being taught from a young age, like, if you don't believe in Jesus and if you sin, you're deserving of hell for all of eternity. And every one of your friends who doesn't know Jesus is also going to burn in hell. And so there was this survival imperative to follow the rules of this angry God who believed that I was fundamentally deserving of eternal torture because I lied. Like they always said, like, it takes one sin to be deserving of hell. And so from a very young age, it was like my entire schema around my self-worth, what it meant to be worthy of love. All these things were heavily influenced by the religious teachings and upbringing that I was in. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be the goodest Christian there ever was. I'm going to follow all of the rules because I don't want God to hate me. I don't want God to detest me. I want to be a good girl. I want to be a good Christian. And, based in the paradigm that I was in, I was looking at, okay, what does it mean to be a good person? What does it mean to be a good girl? Okay, it means being pure, not using bad language, being really devout to the religious community, lots of service. And so that eventually led me to becoming really involved in leadership as a teenager and eventually becoming very involved in the worship team, the worship band, singing. I learned bass guitar for the worship band.
Wow. You were in it.
I was in it and went on missions trips, preached in other countries, led worship in other countries in Spanish, was very devout, went to Bible college. And I was like, okay, I'm following all the rules. I'm the goodest Christian there ever was.
I deeply resonate with that. I was raised Southern Baptist in rural South Carolina and then ended up going to a mega church, which was associated with the Southern Baptist Convention. I was a youth leader.
Yep.
I also went on mission trips, that good old savior complex. Christian nationalism. And I recently found myself going into these deep dives of history and ancient text and understanding and studying colonialization and then why women particularly were told that we were the sinners. We cause everyone else to stumble, to sin, right? In the Bible, in the Christian Bible, right? Eve is the one that creates sin.
Yep.
And she causes the stumbling. And we see that perpetuated through all of society, even up until now, how women are the issue. So we must control women. And ultimately what we're saying is we must control the feminine because even Mary Magdalene, right? And I don't know if you were taught this, but I was taught that she was the prostitute.
Yeah.
She was the whore. But reality was she just removed the church as the path to God, that the only sin was forgetting that you were God itself, right? Megan Watterson is one of my most favorite theologians. If you haven't read her book, Mary Magdalene Revealed, the First Apostle, I highly recommend it for you and anyone that has religious conditioning, because a woman in her power is a threat to the patriarchy and to the system as a whole. Let it out. And and I am excited for you to break down that power, right? Because, that's why witches and the archetype of the hag, the sage. I was on a podcast yesterday and she was talking about how the hag was like witches were considered ugly. We demonized women in their power, women who knew the medicine and the path to God. So tell me about your path from worship leader to, I see you have, is that a pole behind you?
I have 2 poles.
Beautiful. Yes, you are. You're a pole dancer. Is that right?
Yes.
Beautiful. So tell the arc. How does one go from this fundamentalist Christian worship leader, going, doing all the good girl things to the pole dancer?
First of all, I love, if people aren't watching me, I'm like hooting and hollering over here and like, whoa, she's preaching. So of course it was not an overnight thing. And the catalyst really started when I was engaged at the age of 22. Because, I mean, getting married at 22 is late.
Yes.
You know, all of my friends were already engaged and married. And like, I got engaged to the man that I was told and believed that God had for me. And 3 months before our wedding, he called it off. And he said, I never loved you. I can't be with you. He is gay. I knew that going into it, but I had to save him, right, from his sin.
You had to.
And, I had to be his beard for life. And so that began this process of like my entire reality crumbled. It was like, I did all the right things. We're saving ourselves from marriage. I'm doing everything right. I'm following God's will. I'm willing to sacrifice being wanted sexually to have a godly marriage where the whole point of marriage is to like honor God together, right? So my entire world comes crashing down. My mission to be a wife was no longer going to happen. And all the confusion and sadness and anger and fear and rage like was just coming up. And then it started poking at all this childhood wounding where my parents got divorced and not really having healthy love modeled, and just suddenly all this stuff started emerging. And it then made me question and go, okay, if I'm not going to be a wife, what am I going to do with my life? What next? And I'm starting to slowly deconstruct at this point. I remember saying the F word for the first time in my life after my ex broke up with me, and thinking, I really thought if I said, I can cuss on here, right?
Yeah, of course.
I really thought if I said fuck, that the ground would like open up beneath me and swallow me. This is how good I was. Like, I didn't even cuss.
You were real good, extra good.
Extra good, not even in my own mind, right? And so I just was like, I remember crying, wailing in grief, and being like, what the fuck? And nothing happened. The world kept spinning. I kept breathing. I was okay. And it was just like little moments like this. It's like the thread started pulling. And so this is happening. And then I'm also questioning, okay, what am I going to do with my life? And then, I just graduated with my bachelor's in counseling from Bible college. And I was like, okay, maybe I just focus on my career journey again. And, I was a theater kid. I was a dancer. And I was like, well, what if there was a way to help people heal with dance? Or is that a thing? And then realizing there was a master's degree in dance and movement therapy at a very liberal college in Chicago.
Yes.
And so around the same time where I'm like pivoting my life, my career, I meet this guy, and he's a non-believer.
Oh, the path to sin.
The path to sin. He's a non-believer, which is like, I wasn't even going to entertain dating someone.
So were you still a believer even though you were deconstructing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Still a believer, but things were shaky.
Yeah.
And I was trying to hold on to it. And started dating this guy who was the most emotionally available, supportive. He liked me, wanted to touch me, which, after being with a gay man for many years, I was like,
that's very different.
What is this feeling so sudden and new? Wow. Being wanted, like feeling my own femininity and sexuality like come to life just in kind of flirting with this guy. And I just couldn't help but be into him. But he was a non-believer, and there was so much anxiety and so much fear. But it was like one part of me was like, I want to see this through. And so I kept seeing him, and that also started leading to deconstruction. What is love? What are relationships? Like, why does God hate non-believers? Like, so much deconstructing. And then I got accepted into this very liberal college for dance and movement therapy. And that just became the total undoing.
Liberal pipeline. I'm laughing because I went to a very liberal college as well in the South, the College of Charleston, CFC. Okay, baby. Okay. And when I went home for my first semester, I went home with a Students for Bernie clip, and then I love consensual sex. Yes. And my dad was like, oh my God, Emily, where did we send you to school? And I was like, it's coming, baby. But I digress. Okay, so you get in to a very liberal school. You're deconstructing. You're dating this guy who's a non-believer. And for those of you who are not in the Christian lingo, non-believer is just what we as in people that were in the church would call other folks who did not associate with Christianity. Non-believers, they were people that needed to be saved, and you were not supposed to date outside of your own religion.
Shun the non-believer. So I'm learning about, and it's a very experiential program where, you're learning how to support people in processing emotions through their body, and you have to do it yourself. You are practicing it yourself. And it was like all this fear and shame just started coming to the surface. I was so in my head. When you're a good girl, you're very in your head. What's right? What should I do? What do other people expect of me? You're so in your head, and your identity is so built around these rules that are handed to you. So when you start tapping into your body, you start feeling into actually what's authentic for me. Mm-hmm. Not what should I do, not what other people think makes me good. What is authentic for me as a person? And so I start just feeling into this whole other world outside of my rigid beliefs. And I start coming home to myself in this way that I never had before, even as a dancer. I had a relationship with my body, but not this relationship with my body, where it's so deep and so internal. And there's so much trauma that's unraveling as I'm doing this embodiment work with myself. And it was like the way that my brain operated changed in those 2 years on a fundamental level. And, I remember at the beginning of grad school, I was still deconstructing. I was still so scared and so anxious of like not believing what I believed. And by the end, I was like, I'm fucking free.
Yeah.
I'm free. And I've now, me and the non-believer just celebrated 8 years of marriage. So
that gave me chills. Cute. Amazing. Well, congrats to you guys. What a beautiful story of redemption and trusting yourself.
Yeah.
Trusting yourself. And there's a few things that I want to break apart here. One, you said when you were in this process, you had to feel your own emotions because if you were going to teach it, you had to become the master of it. And in that, it started unraveling all of this trauma. And I, as someone that's studied trauma, clinically researched trauma, studied the brain, I understand the science of all of that. But can you tell me what that felt like from a human perspective? Did you feel like you were doing things wrong because now all of a sudden you're supposed to be doing this work, but it feels really overwhelming and all of your trauma's coming up? How did you balance the processing of that and all the intensity that comes along with it?
Yeah. I mean, I just remember, going to class, you're learning the theory and you're learning experiential work and how to like help other people through it. And I remember it bringing up some of my own stuff, of course. And I remember like there were some classes where like they would kind of do experiential work with us, or we would practice with each other. And so like even just in that started unraveling things. But I remember like going back to my apartment and being like, okay, there's more work here. And I felt like healing was my full-time job. I was so determined to be like, something's got to change. The way that I'm relating to myself and everything that I've been carrying, it's eating me alive. And so I like outside of class, I'd be reading extra books. I'd be like processing emotions on my own. I remember there was this one time I was so anxious. This is a huge byproduct of religious trauma or trauma in general is anxiety. I was so anxious. And I just remember being so up in my head with all the fear, all the worries, all the thoughts of what if, And I remember being like, okay, here's my opportunity to practice the things that I'm learning right now. Yeah. And I remember like turning out the lights in my room. I had 5 other roommates. So I'm just like in my room by myself and putting the lights low and just letting my body move this energy. Instead of trying to think my way out of it or figure it out or find all the answers, I just like start letting my body move in ways that I never let my body move before. And then I remember getting out art and painting my experience. I just started practicing for myself what I was learning to do for others. And in a way, I really believe that made me a better practitioner it was very difficult to balance. Like those 2 years were my most anxious time in my life. I really I can't say step for step, like how I got through that. But I just remember being so determined, so focused to, like you said, become a master of this for myself first, because I was crumbling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then my high achiever, good girl programming is what kept me showing up to class and turning in all my assignments.
Right. Well, because it does serve, right? It does serve. When I was in grad school and we were studying motivational interviewing and how to use that in dialogue with clients, I remember we just started with something really simple like smoking. And then they were like, okay, well, tell me about what does smoking do for you? Tell me all the good things. And I was like, we have to talk about the good things. And he was like, yeah, every behavior, everything serves us, right? At some point. And so having compassion for what it serves, and then we can continue to honor that human form and find a way that's going to support that next level of who we want to be, which is so critical. And I want to spend a little more time on these 2 years that were so freaking anxious for you. Because what I have continued to see as I'm working with incredible high achievers like yourself, people that are building these businesses, that are building these visions and want to really root into energetic mastery and do it in a way that is less stressful. Well, we have to look at the systems and the structures that we're currently operating in. And so that sometimes requires us to allow everything to become present, allow everything to become felt before it can be released. We like to go from, oh, this is what's wrong. Okay, perfect. It's done. It's healed, instead of being felt. And the whole purpose of being a human is to feel. What's the difference between a human and divine? It's the full spectrum of human emotion. Right. And that's why I love teaching ancient wisdom too. And why I'm a huge history nerd of studying ancient pantheons and helping us study archetypes is, Persephone is one of the archetypes and one of the goddesses that I most deeply relate with, because she becomes the queen of the underworld. Ooh. She was stolen by Hades, and her mom, Demeter, they come to this agreement that she will spend half the year in the underworld and then half the year with her above, right? So it's the winter and the summer, right? Why we have the winter and summer solstices, why seasonal wisdom is magic for our energy. But in that, she wasn't afraid to go to the underworld. Her mom mourned that. Her mom felt that, but she became the queen. And she willingly goes. She doesn't have to be ripped and stolen away every time. But at first, she had to be abducted and taken, and that was horrible. And it's this suffering, this aversion to suffering, this inability to witness the full spectrum of our emotions that I believe keeps us trapped in the underworld. Yes. So I talk a lot about, okay, you're in the underworld now. If we can name that, how much of a release, how much of the surrender can you start to look around and say, okay, well, I'm not on fire. That was a lie. Right? That was perpetuated by the Christian church to keep us scared and shackled. And this is scary down here. I get it. It's heavy, but how can I be with it? So, what did embodiment teach you about being with the emotions? And before we even get in that, can you tell us what embodiment really means on a practical term? If you've been listening to this podcast and thinking, this is exactly how I want to run my business, that is your sign to go deeper. Rooted is my monthly membership for entrepreneurs and leaders who are done running their business and their career on empty. Inside, we work with energetic patterns of each season, pull the archetypes, read what's moving, and use all of it to make clearer decisions, reduce the stress that's been quietly draining you, and build towards your vision in a way that actually feels like you and feels deeply connected to source and spirit. Most of us have spent years mastering the strategy and performing really high, the plans, the goals, the hustle. Rooted is the other half. It is the part that makes the strategy work without costing you everything. It's $27 a month, and you can try it free for 7 days. Go to risetoher.com/rooted or click the link in the show notes. Come get rooted with us. I'll see you inside.
Oh, yeah. I love everything you just said. And it leads so perfectly into what embodiment is. And for me, embodiment is full connection to your human experience, full connection to your aliveness. You're not just in your head. You're not just a floating head in a jar. You're not just a walking mind. You are fully embodied, incarnate, right? If you think about the symbolism of Christianity, divine becoming flesh, you're fully in your body. And part of being fully in your body and fully in your human experience is that full spectrum of human emotions, including the ones we don't love, the ones that feel icky and painful and uncomfortable and prickly and hot and sweaty and tense and writhing. That's part of embodiment too, is like, can I feel the full range of human emotions without labeling them as good or bad or right or wrong? It's just my aliveness. It's just my humanness and signs of life.
Signs of life. Yes. Oh, I like that. I like that. Signs that we are living.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. So embodiment is the ability to be fully present with the human emotions. What does that look like on a day to day? And how do you start working with people to begin to embody their emotions? And how does dance come in that?
Yeah. So first of all, there's disembodiment. And what comes with disembodiment is secondary emotions, secondary emotional experiences. Let's take anxiety, for example. Anxiety is what we feel when we're afraid to feel other feelings. I'm afraid that if I do this, I'll make a mistake and then I'll feel really disappointed. I'm afraid that I'll do this and then I'll experience loss, grief, and sadness. I'm afraid that this will happen and then I'll be really embarrassed. So we have like our secondary emotions. And again, anxiety just being one example, a very common example. And so for a long time, I specialized in helping people with anxiety, because again, that was the biggest thing that I walked through. And so first, it's, can we be with the somatic experience of anxiety? Because we're usually so in the mind. What is my mind saying? What is the content of my anxiety? Oh, is it about my relationships? Is it about work? We're used to being so caught up in what we're thinking when we're anxious. So part one is just, can I notice what I'm feeling when I'm anxious? What does feeling anxious feel like? Where do I feel that? How do I feel that? Is it a lump in my throat? Is it a burning in my chest? Is it a knot in my stomach? Is it a dropping, twisting feeling in my gut? Is it a shakiness? Is it a pushing? Is it a pulling? And so where dance or expressive movement comes in is, instead of feeling this as this overwhelming, horrible experience, can I turn it into expression? Can this shaking I feel in my belly become a shaking I feel in my arms and a shaking I feel in my shoulders? Can I give it more of a creative expression? And then suddenly I'm shifting my relationship with it. And then once we start to see that, we go deeper. Okay, what is this anxiety trying to protect me from? What's the like secondary gain of this anxiety? What am I really afraid to feel? That I'm living my life like this, like I'm holding my breath, like I'm walking on eggshells, like I'm trying to control and manage everything. What is that protecting me from feeling? Oh my God, I'm so afraid of feeling grief. I'm so afraid of doing something in which I might fail and then I'm going to feel disappointed. And then we can apply that same principle to, okay, what's disappointment feel like? What's grief feel like? How do we move with that? How do we turn our emotions into an energy to be expressed, not a problem to fix? That there's an art to being human, that it's not this thing we have to constantly transcend. It can be an art, like the art of feeling, the art of expressing. And then this is what helps people go into that underworld without fear. They're like, oh my God, there's artistry here too. There's beauty here too. There's humanity in the darkness too.
So good. So good. Do you feel as if when people start to be able to express and be creative with those more dense, more uncomfortable feelings, that once that's alchemized, they're able to tap into those high vibe, and I'm doing that with quotes if you're not watching YouTube, higher vibe expressions like joy, like playfulness? Do you feel like that's more accessible to them?
100%. And the imagery that we always give to our clients is, I'm holding a pen right now. So this is your emotional spectrum. On one end is grief, and on the other end is love. On one end is disappointment, and on the other end is excitement, right? There's a shadow to every light side. And when people live their whole lives trying to avoid the possibility of feeling grief, they're trying to throw it out. They throw out the whole stick. So in trying to throw out grief and get rid of grief, they're getting rid of love. In trying to get rid of disappointment, they're getting rid of excitement. In trying to get rid of sadness, they're getting rid of joy, because we can't selectively numb emotions. And every emotion has its dual partner, its yin and its yang. And so when someone learns to feel grief and feel safe to feel grief and know that it's not wrong, bad, it's not something to avoid, it's part of being human, suddenly they allow themselves to love even more, because the reason why they're not letting themselves love even more is they're afraid that if I really let myself love, I'll experience loss and then I'll experience grief, and I don't want to experience that. So I just won't let myself love that much.
Yes. Oh my God. So good. And this inability to be creative is going to become more and more evident as we enter into this age of AI, where it's removing the requirement to critically think and to be present with the human experience. I have rooted my seasonal living and ancient wisdom membership for entrepreneurs and creatives. And in that, there's a workshop called the Portal of Joy. And joy is one of the core principles for everything I teach. I also lead retreats, and they're called Journey to Joy. And the whole thing is being able to finally access the full spectrum of the human experience and tap into joy so that you can then create, so that you can then play, and so that you can be in full devotion to your divine mission. Maybe that means you're in partnership. Maybe that means you're mothering. Maybe that means, for me, leading a business and leading a team, right? But in order to do that, I take people through the experience of being with their grief and fully alchemizing that and creating magic from it. And I just love hearing this not new, but this other way of fully creating with the emotion. You then can create something beautiful. Yeah. You can take it to this story and make meaning of it, instead of saying, I can't be there because it's unsafe, because I've been rejected for feeling that in the past. And especially women too, when we think about rage, when we think about sadness, we have these archetypes that we want to avoid. And then with the men that I work with, and I do work with incredible men, it's, oh, well, I can't feel angry, because if that's the case, then it becomes this rage. It becomes this abuse. Yeah. And if I can't feel sad, it's because I become too emotional and I'm not masculine enough. So how do you see the masculine and the feminine energetics in your work with dance and movement?
Oh, first of all, it sounds like you are doing such beautiful work in the world, and I'm so touched. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the masculine is the containment, the safety, the structure, the reliability, and the feminine is the creativity, the flow, like the letting things move. And if you just have all feminine and no masculine, you feel like there's nothing to hold me as I feel this. It doesn't feel safe to feel this. So the emotions are just coming out and you feel just completely overwhelmed. You feel completely dysregulated. Your emotions feel chaotic, like they're just coming out at random. There's no containment. And then if you have all masculine and no feminine, it's like you're just this still container, but there's nothing moving through it. There's no aliveness. It's just, okay, I am always feeling grounded and regulated and okay. I don't really feel that much, right? So to have both is that safety and that containment. A big part of my work is building safety, building inner resources, building containment so that we feel safe to feel those bigger emotions. We need both, because I see a lot of online somatic trendy things where it's like, just scream into the forest. But if someone has trauma around feeling anger, if anger was used as abuse and there's no containment or safety in their body that's established first, then they go to feel this feminine rage or whatever, and it can cause re-traumatization. So we need both the containment, the safety, the structure, the solidness, the I'm there. And we need the movement, the aliveness, the flow, the letting it come through.
Yes, yes. And this is why it is so critical. I need everyone listening to hear this, to make sure that you are doing your research on the practitioners that you're working with, the coaches that you're working with, because there is a level of mastery and training that is required to be able to lead people through these things. And it takes time. We want to make sure that you yourself feel safe in these environments, in these containers. At the end of the day, we're all human. Even the most qualified, the most trained professionals are going to make mistakes. Absolutely. But we want to make sure that we are, investing and spending time with the people that can hold sacred space for us. With that antidote, I'm curious, what do you experience or what do you recognize for one? This is a dual question. When you're working with maybe feminine embodied people that identify as females, and it comes to tapping into pleasure, sex, sensuality, what do you notice happens when you start bringing that up? And then I'm going to flip on that with people that identify with more masculine bodied, like when they need to start tapping into that, what appears?
Oh, yeah. First of all, whether religious or not, women carry so much shame around pleasure, sex, sensuality, just like all the crazy mixed messages, all the body shaming, all the victim blaming, all the ways women learn that like their sensual, sexual body is a problem. It shows up in a lot of ways. I also teach a dance class apart from like my somatic embodiment coaching work. I teach a dance class. And for a lot of women, it's not like they've been dancing their whole lives. It's an adult dance class. I call it Shake It. And it's like a hip hop cardio class. There's a lot of booty shaking. It's fun. It's vibrant. There's hip rolls and body rolls and shimmies and booty clapping, all that fun stuff.
Hell
and
yeah.
so many women, their brain hip connection, their mind body connection in their hips is so disconnected. They don't know how to roll their hips. They don't know how to articulate their pelvis. There's a rigidity, there's a frozenness in their hips. And it's like having to like, for the first time, really connect to their hips, their pelvis, their womb space, their sexual body, and move in like a sensual way. It's like you can see the programming of the body just in that way, like from a dance perspective. And then when it comes to like working with the emotional stuff, there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of fear. As soon as clients we start to play with like pleasure and sensuality, it's like they only let themselves go so far. And then they notice they go up in their heads, or they notice another emotion comes in, fear, shame, guilt, insecurity. The other emotion comes in and says, stop. This is the only amount we're allowed to feel. And so then we've got to like look at that and work through that to create that safety. And we're slowly expanding the capacity to feel safe, to feel pleasure and sexual energy.
Yes. Oh, I will be very honest that even as I'm asking these questions, they're triggering for me. And so I want to tell our listeners too, to be patient with yourself. Maybe even like we can take a deep breath together now. And this information, beautiful, this process, this new portal that is being opened by your words, Chelsey, of, hey, this is what's happening in the body. This portal being open is an invitation. And if you're being triggered by it, if you're like, oh my God, I can't do that, I don't know how to do that, that's probably some of your most vital medicine. And I say that because as I'm asking, I can feel my body and brain wanting to dissociate. And I have a very clear feeling of what that is. It's almost like a zoom out is what my body will feel when I start to dissociate. And in an effort to be vulnerable in a way that's helpful is like sex, body, sensuality for me became dangerous.
Yes.
And a distraction, what I was conditioned, a distraction from my professionalism. And as someone that is very large chested, when I dress in a way that would make me feel sexy, it feels as if I'm asking for attention.
Yeah.
So even this idea of moving your body sensually, sexually in a way that's God, that's hot, like maybe my own, like, yes, I look hot doing that. It almost feels like I must protect myself. How do you start to build the capacity, allow yourself to feel the safety in those experiences?
Oh, first of all, thank you so much for sharing that and speaking to that from your own experience. Because, like you said, I imagine other people listening might be like, feel some version of that too. So just thank you for being a model for that and to bring that into this space. Because, yeah, there's so much conditioning. I mean, especially with the religious stuff, your sexuality is dangerous. You're a stumbling block. Your body is a distraction, especially when you're in a curvier body, you're in a bigger body where I can't just disappear. My tits are here. My ass is here. I can't make them just disappear. And I mean, this is where we get into eating disorders. And anyway, it's a whole other thing. But we first want to look at that reaction, this programmed, conditioned response of protection, safety, and like really get to know that because we don't want to bulldoze past that. Right. That's the scared inner teenager or the scared inner child. Or like, I mean, I'm sure during puberty, as like your body is developing as a woman, and you're in the religious conditioning, it's like there's this young teenager inside of you that says, oh no, my body's becoming bad.
Yes.
And it's, can we get to know that young girl who's learning just for existing, her body is bad. Wow. Just for having desires that she's bad. Can we look at the shame there and that internalized conditioning and how it lives in the body through those reactions? Like that is the exact example of like how our experiences live and manifest somatically. That zhuzhing in your head, this feeling of dissociating, that's a beautiful protective response that your body took on to say, if my body is dangerous, then I need to get out of her. I need to dissociate from her. She's dangerous.
Yeah.
And it's okay looking at that. And then I imagine, you know, for a lot of people, myself included, when we really feel that part of us, there's often this grief, this sadness. What do you mean this little 13-year-old girl or whatever is already learning that she's dangerous, that this part of her humanness is bad? And I know for me, there was a lot of grieving, you know, with purity culture. There was a lot of sexual experiences that I, quote unquote, missed out on because it was like, that's dangerous. Yeah. If I explore this part of myself, that's dangerous. And a lot of just, like honoring that grief so that that part of you knows, like, I see you. You know, as we're going on this journey of reclaiming my body and my sensuality and my expression, I see you and I'm checking in with you in this process. And it can be a simultaneous process of I'm honoring the grief and the fear and the pain in that younger version of me as I'm starting to dip my toes in and just play with, okay, what might it look like or feel like for me at this stage to connect more with my sensuality and sexuality?
Yes. Oh my God, so good. And every time we make that choice to go beyond our body and our trigger in that moment, we're reaffirming a different neural pathway. And if you watch brain scans in real time, you can see them disconnecting. I'm not going to take a trail that's unmarked unless someone's shown me that there's a path down there. And so every time you say, all right, for just these 10 seconds, I'm going to move beyond my conditioned experience and show my body how safe it is to be in this. We recondition in a way that's more supportive of that higher self that we want to tap into. And that medicine, oh my God, I just have so much compassion for everyone that's like feeling uncomfortable, but also like compassion for myself. I've recently started learning from someone who studies Tantra. And I am in a class with this teacher now where it's about feminine pleasure. It's a sex magic. It's about intimacy, because one big thing that my wife and I want to manifest in our relationship is this really deep intimacy. And with sex, with emotion, with just this depth, but I have this dissociation because I went from completely ignoring like sex was bad, being in my body was bad. It was a sin, right?
Yes.
And the day I lost my virginity, the person I lost it to said, so much for waiting. And I have,
Wow.
you can break down and I can giggle about it now because I'm like, oh my God. I just know little 18-year-old Emily. I remember everything so clear. And I was like, I'm going to hell. And then I was with this person, right? I know you can ask someone that was in the Christian sphere. It was like dagger to the heart. Oh my God, I have absolutely stumbled and sinned.
Oh,
Then I started, turned 25 and I was like, I'm bisexual. I'll sleep with anyone. And I did whatever I wanted to, but it was a disconnection. It was almost like I need to prove to myself that I can do these things, but I'm going to be dissociated while I do it. And so when it came to being intimate, to connecting with someone on a deep level, my body was like, nope, you can't do that. There it becomes unsafe, right?
yeah.
And so it's this connection of pieces and your work, Chelsey. Oh my God, like I just can't wait to learn more from you because I can just imagine, especially like the high achieving women, the people that are learning, that are doing, that are leading companies, businesses, that are growing creative projects, the power that starts to reawaken in our feminine magic. Doesn't matter if you identify as a man, a woman, non-binary, we all have masculine and feminine energies in us. And your work of being completely present in our body reminds us of our aliveness, reminds us of our power, of our humanness. So thank you for all of that magic. And I don't want to leave our listeners hanging on how you ended up becoming a pole dancer and all of your teaching and all of your leading. Where does that fit into your life?
Yeah, I stumbled upon pole dancing. I moved in with my now husband, and just around the corner in LA, there was a pole dance studio, and it was just like that was a part of me. I remember, the movie Burlesque with Christina Aguilera and Cher? That came out probably when I was in, I don't know, high school or undergrad. And I remember, and I was still very Christian. I remember this part of me, I was enamored with that movie. There was a part of me that I wish I was allowed to move like that. I was enamored. And I remember thinking to myself, if I wasn't a Christian, I would be a burlesque dancer. There was this part of me.
We're there.
Yeah. And so it was like this thing that I never really got to explore, like sexual dance. And so I was like, okay, I signed up for a chair dance class and I was hooked. I was hooked. So I did a chair dance class because I was a little afraid of the pole. I was intimidated. And I'd done some more like contemporary chair work, but like not erotic, exotic chair work. And then I took a pole dance class and it was very hard, but I was like, I was in. I bought the freaking 8-inch heels. I bought all the slutty outfits. I bought the fish. Like I was like, it was this part of myself that just came alive that I was never allowed to embody and explore for so long. And I feel like it was another way of me reclaiming my sexuality. What was to dance.
Yeah.
And I just do it for myself. I have a lot of friends in the pole community who are sex workers, who are performers. And so it's more like they do it in the open. At this point in my life, it's for myself. I've done little performances here and there, but it's just because I feel so freaking amazing when I do it.
Oh, thank you for sharing that aliveness with us. I think it's so badass. Also, the strength that it takes. When a friend of mine is a pole dancer, and I was like, you are so strong. Oh my God. And the body awareness that it takes. Wow.
You build it because that's everyone's biggest block. Well, I'm not strong enough. I had spaghetti arms and not a single muscle. It's absolute spaghetti arms. And you build that strength. And I remember seeing tricks that I was like, will I ever be able to do that? And not knowing if I could do it. And then being like, having my body learn bit by bit and experience myself in this way. Strong, powerful, and you will be bruised as hell, by the way, too. You're going to be so beat up. You're so beat up. Yeah, but it's so fun.
So fun. Maybe one day. I've taken one pole class. It was fun. I was like, ah. But yes, I'm in my era of feeling more awakening my feminine magic, welcoming it in. That is, I'm at a crux right now, but I recognize that. So I am embracing that aliveness from you. But I want people to know, what do you have for people that want to get more information on somatics? And also, can you tell us about where you teach other practitioners how to do this work with their clients?
Yeah. So all of my work is virtual. We have a year-long accredited somatic and embodiment coaching certification program called the Healing Embodied Practitioner Training Program. We meet online. We also have a week-long in-person thing. So people fly out and, we have them up at an Airbnb, and it's really incredible. But this is, where you're building your own embodiment, you're deepening your own embodiment, and you're learning how to guide other people through their embodiment, right? That safety, that containment, that structure, that trauma-informed nervous system work, and also how to help someone get out of their head and into their body, the challenges that come with that for many people, how to work through that, how to bring in creativity and expression and shadow work and inner child work and parts work, this very integrative approach that creates insane transformation for people. And all the while you're applying the work to yourself. So if you're wanting to get this kind of training and experience and become this kind of practitioner, our certification program can be done anywhere in the world. And then if you're wanting just somatic and embodiment support for yourself, we have a program called Holy Human, WHOLLY. And it is everything that we've been saying, embracing the whole spectrum of the human experience, the light, the dark, reclaiming your creativity, reclaiming your expression, the parts of you that have been kind of tucked away due to neglect or shame or just, not knowing how to bring that part of you back online. And it's a really powerful group experience. And so Sarah, the COO of Healing Embodied, and I co-facilitate both those programs.
Oh my gosh, beautiful. And I'll have those links in the show notes. But where else can they find you? You have a podcast too, so I want to plug that. So what are your links? What are you on Instagram? All of those things.
Yeah. So if you want to just book a consult call with me, talk with me, see what would be a good fit for you, go to healingembodied.com/connect. There's a link to schedule a call with me. Otherwise, you can find me on Instagram at healing.embodied. We have a free Facebook community, the Embodied Leader Paradigm. I'm not really on TikTok that much, but we do have a TikTok, YouTube, podcast, the Healing Embodied podcast. So pretty much search Healing Embodied almost anywhere and you'll probably find us.
Awesome. Perfect. And I will link all of those in the show notes. Chelsey, thank you so much. If there was anything that you could leave the listeners with, like a pocket phrase, but a nugget of wisdom, what would you say?
Your body is your greatest ally in this life. It's not an enemy, even if it feels like it's betraying you in some way. When you really go deep and build a relationship with your body, you see that all along, your body has always been there for you. Always.
Yeah, beautiful. And so it is. Thank you, Chelsey. We really, really appreciate your wisdom. It was absolutely amazing. I can't wait to continue to learn from you.
Thank you, Emily. Oh my gosh.
Thank you so much for being here, for listening, reflecting, and rising into more of who you really are. If this episode sparked something inside of you or reminded you you're not alone, then you're exactly where you're meant to be. To keep the conversation going, come hang out with me on Instagram at rise2her. I always love hearing what's resonating for you. And if you're craving a space to explore intuitive, soul-led living with others who get it, our community is growing and you're always welcome. Until next time, trust yourself, honor your rhythm, and keep rising.